11 most dangerous predators roaming the Rocky Mountains that no one talks about. Picture a trailhead in the Rocky Mountains at 9 o'clock in the morning. Golden light through lodgepole pine. The smell of dew burning off granite. A family unloading a cooler. A dog straining at its leash toward a meadow full of columbine. Somewhere, a stream is moving over stones with a sound so steady it becomes furniture, something you stop hearing after the first quarter mile. This is the version of the mountains that gets photographed. Postcard stillness. But that softness is a kind of camouflage. Every animal on this list is already inside that photograph, not hiding in some far ridge you would need a permit to reach, but present, close, and statistically documented within a short walk of the exact scene just described. This countdown is not ranked by raw lethality. A ranking like that would be simple, and simple is not what keeps a species alive in country this crowded with hikers, ranchers, and second homes. Instead, this list is ordered by degree of denial. Number 11 is the animal you already half expect. Number 1 is the animal your brain has been trained quietly and for generations to stop registering as a threat at all, even while it is, in a documented and measurable sense, watching you. Before the countdown begins, drop your nearest trailhead or your home county into the comments. By the third entry, you may recognize it. Every fact in this countdown comes from state wildlife agency data, federal monitoring reports, or peer-reviewed range studies, not campfire rumor. That distinction matters because the animals ahead are not being exaggerated for effect. If anything, most of them are undersold by the culture around them, quietly, on purpose, so that daily life near them can continue to feel simple. Hold that thought about being watched. It will matter again before this ends. Number 11, the animal you call a nuisance. You've seen this one crossing a golf course at dusk, or trotting along a frontage road with a rabbit in its jaw, and you filed it under nuisance rather than predator. That filing is the first mistake on this list. Colorado Parks and Wildlife estimates a resident population in the tens of thousands statewide, with confirmed presence in all 64 counties, urban and alpine alike. It does not require wilderness. It has learned suburban drainage culverts, golf course sprinkler timing, and the schedule of unleashed small dogs at dawn. It hunts in loose, coordinated pairs more often than people assume, flanking prey rather than simply chasing it. A hunting geometry closer to wolves than to the solitary scavenger of popular imagination. The denial here is familiarity. You've seen it too many times without incident to believe the next encounter could be different, and that habituation is precisely what field biologists cite before the encounters that are. Attacks on unattended pets and small livestock are documented every year in suburban counties along the Front Range, most involving animals within sight of an occupied house at the time. If this one is a shadow at the edge of a parking lot, the next is a shadow that has already been inside your yard without you knowing it. Number 10, the animal you mistake for someone's cat. A tawny shape crossing a fence line at 200 yards gets called a cat, a big cat maybe, and then forgotten. Wildlife agencies across the Rocky Mountain states log thousands of reported sightings a year that never make it into any official count because the animal responsible is rarely confirmed and almost never approached. Adults average 20 to 40 pounds, built low and dense, with a hunting range that can exceed 30 square miles in a single season, without the animal ever crossing a road you would remember driving on. It kills in ambush, from cover, in a single compressed burst, and then it is gone before the sound of the encounter finishes traveling across the field. The denial here is scale. People assume something this quiet must also be something this rare, when in truth its numbers are healthier than almost any other mid-sized predator on this list. Quiet is not the same as absent. Researchers who fit these animals with tracking collars for long-term study routinely find individuals bedding down within a few hundred yards of occupied homes for entire seasons, undetected the whole time. Undetected, not absent. If the last entry announces itself in daylight, this one has already decided before you arrived whether you were worth revealing itself to at all. Number 9. The animal everyone assumes is harmless because it digs. There is a low mound of fresh soil near a fence post, a burrow the size of a dinner plate, and the assumption that whatever made it is small, slow, and entirely uninterested in you. That assumption has sent more than one rancher's dog to the veterinary clinic with wounds disproportionate to the animal's size. An adult can weigh up to 25 pounds and possesses jaw strength and claw. Length engineered for tearing through packed earth and rodent burrows in seconds. Strength that transfers without modification to anything that corners it. It does not flee confrontation the way most mid-sized mammals do. It stands its ground, low to the earth, and meets aggression with disproportionate aggression of its own. The denial here is size-based contempt. Something low to the ground and slow-moving gets mentally demoted to harmless. A category error that ignores what the animal is actually built to do when it cannot retreat. If the last entry disappears the moment it is seen, this one is the opposite problem. It refuses to. Number 8. The animal people photograph instead of fearing. It circles on a thermal above a canyon rim, wings held in a shallow dihedral, and every phone within sight lifts to capture it. Reverence is the default response. Reverence is also, on this list, a form of blind spot. With a wingspan that can exceed 7 feet and a stoop-dive clocked at speeds rivaling a falcon's, this raptor has been documented by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service taking prey up to the size of small deer fawns and unattended domestic livestock. Not only rodents and rabbits. It hunts from altitude, silent until the final seconds, using terrain and sun position so the strike arrives from a blind angle almost every time. The denial here is aesthetic. Something this majestic does not fit the mental category of dangerous, so the danger gets quietly reclassified as spectacle instead. A rebranding the animal itself has no part in. Livestock producers across several mountain counties file predation claims tied to this species every calving season. A pattern wildlife managers consider consistently underreported, because so few witnesses ever look up in time. If the last entry stands its ground on the earth, this one has simply removed the ground from the equation entirely, striking from a direction you were never trained to watch. Number 7. The animal that warns you and gets blamed anyway. It is the one predator on this list that announces itself before striking, and somehow that courtesy has convinced an entire region it is less dangerous than the ones that do not. Rocky Mountain State Health Departments log dozens of venomous bites annually, a majority occurring not on remote trails, but within a few hundred yards of trailhead parking lots, wood piles, and rock-lined suburban gardens. It does not always rattle. Juveniles frequently strike without the warning adults are known for, and even adults withhold it during ambush ready to be assumed. The denial here is misplaced trust in an early warning system that is at best inconsistent, and the assumption that danger which announces itself once will always announce itself again. If the last entry strikes from the sky without warning, this one has simply removed the warning from the ground, one bite at a time, exactly when it is least expected. Halfway through this list, and if you are recognizing your own county more than once already, that recognition is exactly the instinct worth keeping. Subscribing costs nothing and keeps this kind of terrain literacy arriving before you need it, rather than after. Number 6. The animal so rare people assume it cannot be the one that got them. This is the animal most likely to be dismissed with a single sentence. It barely exists here anymore. That sentence is both true and, in the specific counties where it persists, dangerously incomplete. Regional wildlife surveys place the total population across its remaining Rocky Mountain range in the low hundreds, concentrated in a small number of high-elevation counties where snowshoe hair density supports it. Its enormous snowshoe-like paws leave a track pattern hikers frequently misidentify as a large domestic cat or a young mountain lion, an error that erases the correct animal from the encounter entirely. The denial here is statistical comfort. Rarity gets mentally converted into safety when in the specific pocket of terrain where it lives, its presence is not rare at all. It is simply concentrated somewhere the viewer assumed it wasn't. Biologists tracking the species describe home ranges that can stretch beyond 100 square miles per individual. meaning a single animal may cross a dozen trailheads that 100 different hikers each believe they have to themselves. If the last entry hides through numbers spread thin across a whole region, this one hides through numbers gathered tight in the one place you were told not to worry about. Number 5. The animal treated like a campfire story. For decades, this animal existed in Rocky Mountain conversation, mostly as folklore, a creature invoked to explain missing livestock or torn open cabins in stories that always happened to someone else, somewhere else, a long time ago. Confirmed sightings and trail camera captures have increased substantially across high-elevation counties over the past 2 decades, according to state wildlife agency monitoring programs, with individuals documented traveling distances exceeding 15 miles in a single night. It is capable of taking down prey many times its own body weight through sheer persistence rather than speed, wearing down animals across terrain few predators would attempt to follow. The denial here is mythologization. Turning an animal into folklore is a way of placing it safely in the past tense, even while current data places it, increasingly, in the present tense and moving closer. Ranchers in the counties where it has resurfaced describe a specific unease that has nothing to do with actual losses, which remain rare, and everything to do with the sense of a boundary quietly moving without anyone announcing it. If the last entry is a concentration you were told not to worry about, this one is an expansion you were told did not happen at all. Number 4. The animal everyone thinks is somewhere else on the map. Reintroduction headlines placed this animal in specific distant boundaries decades ago, and much of the public has never mentally updated the map since, even as the animal itself moved on without waiting for permission. Current state and federal monitoring documents established packs well beyond original reintroduction zones, with confirmed dispersal of individual animals traveling several hundred miles from their natal territory in search of new range. It hunts in coordinated family groups capable of taking prey many times the size of any single member, using terrain funnels and relay pursuit refined over generations. The denial here is outdated geography. The map in most people's heads was accurate roughly a generation ago and has not been updated since, even though the animal it describes never agreed to stay inside it. Backcountry guides in several reintroduction states now factor confirmed pack territories into route planning as a matter of routine, a precaution most weekend visitors have never heard is standard practice at all. If the last entry expanded quietly through persistence, this one expanded openly, publicly, and the public simply stopped paying attention after the initial headline faded. Number 3. The animal considered the harmless version of its cousin. There is a smaller, more common bear in these mountains, and an entire regional culture has built its comfort level around the unspoken assumption that this smaller one is the safe one, the one you do not need to change your behavior for. Wildlife agencies report several hundred human encounters annually across Rocky Mountain states involving this species alone, a majority triggered by improperly stored food or trash rather than any unprovoked aggression, and a documented weight range up to 400 pounds for mature males. It has adapted almost seamlessly to human infrastructure, learning bear-resistant container mechanisms, garage door patterns, and seasonal camp occupancy with a speed researchers describe as unusually fast for a solitary species. The denial here is comparative safety. Being smaller than something more feared does not make an animal safe, only less feared, a distinction with almost no practical value at the moment an encounter actually happens. If the last entry was a map people forgot to update, this one is an animal people update their fear of only by comparing it to something worse. Number 2. The animal the entire region was taught to fear correctly and still underestimates. This is the animal most people on this list already fear the right amount, on paper. The failure is not disbelief. The failure is geography. Federal and state biologists have documented a measurable range expansion over the past 15 years, with confirmed individuals appearing well outside historically designated recovery zones, in counties that had not logged a confirmed presence in over a century, and adult males reaching weights above 600 pounds. It is capable of covering ground at speeds exceeding 30 miles per hour in short bursts across terrain that would stop a human runner within seconds. The denial here is boundary trust. People believe the danger stays where the map says it stays, inside a park boundary or a designated recovery zone, even as the state's own data confirms that boundary has already been crossed, repeatedly, in both directions. Bear-resistant food storage orders now extend into counties that had no such regulation a decade ago, a quiet regulatory admission that the old boundaries were never really holding. Everything on this list until now has been building toward a single idea, that the animal least recognized as a threat is not the smallest, or the rarest, or even the newest arrival. It is the one already fully inside the picture you carry of safety, unremarked, every single day. Number 1. The animal that has already seen you. This is not the biggest animal on the list, it is not the fastest, and by several measures, it is not even the most frequently involved in serious incidents. It earns the top position for a different reason entirely. Of every predator named here, this is the one most likely to have already observed you at close range without you ever knowing it was there. Population density studies in some Rocky Mountain counties place resident numbers far higher than public perception assumes, with individual home ranges regularly overlapping suburban and exurban development at the wildland edge, closer to the trailhead described at the start of this list than most visitors would guess. It is a solitary ambush hunter that relies almost entirely on remaining unseen, capable of observing a person, a dog, or a jogger from concealment for extended periods without any physical indication of its presence, then withdrawing without ever making contact at all. The denial here is the deepest one on this list, because it is not really about the animal. It is about the story people tell themselves about how observable danger is supposed to be. This animal breaks that story completely. It does not need to attack to define the relationship. Watching and choosing not to happens constantly, and almost none of it is ever known. Here is what this list was actually about. Not 11 separate dangers, and not a ranking meant to frighten you out of the mountains. It was about denial itself. The quiet, adaptive human habit of deciding county by county and encounter by encounter which parts of a shared landscape are allowed to still hold teeth. Picture that same trailhead again, later, near dusk this time. The coyote is already crossing the frontage road half a mile off, patient, unbothered by the parked cars. The rattlesnake is coiled in the last patch of sun along the rock border of someone's garden, warm stone holding the day's heat into the evening. And somewhere above the tree line, in cover neither photograph nor trail camera has quite managed to capture, something with far better eyesight than yours is doing exactly what it has done for longer than any road, any trailhead, or any name for this mountain range has existed. The badger is still standing its ground at the mouth of its burrow, unhurried as the evening cools around it. None of them are behaving unusually. None of them are doing anything they have not done every evening of every season for longer than the road has existed. Watching, waiting, since long before there was anyone here to watch it back.